Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, and I'm here to do my Halloween characters video. So, at Everyday Horror, uh, was saying about how when Dr. Loomis died, he thought, when Donald Pleasance died, that he felt that that was the end of the franchise. To me, you could always create new characters, and they don't have to be from Hanfield. Now, can you set a story in Hanfield or outside of it? Sure, you could do either, but I'm going to do outside for tonight only. So here's what I did. I wrote down every character. Um, so here's what you have: bounty hunters Jackson Clearwater and his brother Eric Clearwater, who are actually from the state of Wyoming, and they're bounty hunters and they know how to shoot and stuff. So they're pretty good at their job, and they hear that a bounty has been put on Michael Myers' head. So they figure, what the hell? Why not? Now, do they go to Haddonfield? You can have them go to Haddonfield, but what I would have them do instead of going to Haddonfield is use technology to look up every event that happened in Michael Myers' murders. Now, they don't know where Michael's going to strike next, so they have to keep going. So they hear that on October 30th and 31st, in let's say 2000, it's 2021 now, or so 2022, that Michael Myers has killed 8 people in Houston, Texas. Brad Davis, Chuck Frost, his 16-year-old son Luke White, his daughter, his 15-year-old daughter Nicole White. Yes, these are made up names. Leon Dent, Jesse Irvin, Hector Martinez, and his 16-year-old son Miguel Martinez. So they hear Michael has killed 8 people in Houston. So they go to Houston and look into it. So they're trying to figure out, okay, where's this guy going to strike next? Next, Michael strolls on up to Iowa and kills 7 people. The next town, obviously. Those 7 people are Chris Hansen, Matt Reese, Will Savage, his 14-year-old sister Tara Savage, Susan Martz, Alice Hayward, and Denise Beers. So that's some different places Michael has killed already. I'm trying to make sure I got my last. But okay. So the last place let's talk about the last place that the Clearwater brothers check before they end up getting killed in New Orleans is Huntsville, Alabama. Now I'll explain why they go to New Orleans here in a minute. 10 people die in Huntsville, Alabama. That's right, 10. Bill Larson, Ida Hayes, Carl Streets, Omar Jenkins, Lester Freeman, Oscar Miller, Charles Springs, Mindy Flaggs, Sarah Evans. I gotta read my own chicken scratch, I'm sorry. And Gina House. Good times. So they investigate that one. Then, the Clearwater brothers are getting low on funds, obviously, because they're only going after Michael Myers at this point. And what they want the $40,000 bounty that is on his head. And yes, I said $40,000. The price is absurd, but hey, so is every sort of price that's going on in the current world. Um, so they're low on funds. They find themselves in New Orleans trying to get a bounty. It's actually Halloween. They're not really focused on Myers. And they meet a young man named Wendell Monroe, who's actually a radio DJ who decides to interview the Clearwater brothers about them going after Michael Myers, of all people. So Wendell interviews them. Lo and behold, the Clearwater brothers are murdered by Michael, and so is Wendell's wife, Brandy Monroe. So Michael only gets 3 people in New Orleans. Now, this causes Wendell Monroe to go after Michael Myers. See how I just set up that next guy to go after Michael? See what I just did there? And listen, I wrote all these damn characters down in 8 minutes, and this is the final list right here. Okay, so Wendell, our buddy Wendell Monroe, goes after. Here's a bump that Michael Myers has committed 6 murders in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Those murders are Phil Yates, Frank Combs, Devon Bates, Doug Winters, Joe Preston, Lisa Weathers. Now, here's where things get interesting. It so happens that our buddy Wendell is actually in Indianapolis, Indiana when Michael strikes. No, don't worry. Wendell doesn't die. Hear me out on this. Michael kills 7 women. 7 women. And no one witnesses him kill them except for the last person he kills. Now, I'll get to who witnesses it. I'm sure you can guess. Number 7, Rebecca. Oh, God, I still have to read my own check and scratch, by the way. Rebecca Glass, Betty Morgan, Olivia, her twin sister Olivia Morgan, Beth Woods, Patricia Peach, Jen Thompson, and the last person who Wendell ends up seeing Michael kill is Margaret Fletcher. And so Wendell tries to run down Michael, and people only end up seeing Wendell. Yes, people have heard about Michael, other murders, these other Halloween murders. Wendell is committed, not because people believe he killed those women, because they just think he's batshit crazy. And simply because they feel he caused these other women to die more so than helped them overcome Michael Myers. So they end up committing him. And that's what introduces a brand new character, where we finally meet a psychiatrist by the name of Vivian Haley. Now, I didn't write another set of list of characters down, obviously, for Michael to kill. But you get the point here. Look. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. It took me 8 minutes to write down that many characters in how many different states. 8 minutes. If you're going to say Michael Myers is out there, this is my point. If you're going to say Michael Myers is out there, then say that. Okay? Michael, my friends, is out there. You can always create a character to go after him. It doesn't have to necessarily be a bounty hunter or a radio DJ whose wife was murdered. No. But don't ever think that you have to settle for a pre-existing character. God knows you don't. If anything, you can create any character to go after Michael. Now, let's do the flip side of the coin. Now, again, I didn't write down any more characters, so I'm going to prove my point. Let's take a character from Hanfield. Let's take a character named Oscar Masters and his sister Jessica Masters. They're farmers. They don't necessarily live in Haddonfield, but they have to deliver to the stores around Warren County. This is sort of what my story is based on. Only the first actual year, like from August to October, is going to be in Haddonfield. And here's why I say this. If you're literally going to have Michael out there killing, the fear of Haddonfield is Michael's going to come back. Well, why stop there? So here's this character who's this farmer. Him and his sister have seen there's only half of Haddonfield left. You know how COVID caused things to shut down? Michael has literally killed half the town. Not quite literally, but he's caused so much death that people have just up and half the town has just up and left. Those who were able to leave and for the most part left. Some stayed. And they literally have to combine classes for school. They have to literally have people help with teaching. The hospital is shut down, so if they have an emergency, they have to go to somewhere else. Myers has caused all this in Haddonfield. And again, this is something you could do. Again, me personally, I would love to see somebody take this out of Haddonfield. Me personally. Because I feel that's somewhere, again, if this killer is out there and you never know where he is, to me, that's more terrifying than anything. That's like terrifying. It's just scary. So if you don't know where he's going to strike next, it makes it all the more real and all the more terrifying. And again, there's characters you can create. You don't have to use pre-existing. Do I blame people for using pre-existing characters? No, because it's a lot easier to go off a pre-existing character than it is to create a character, quite literally. But don't think you can't. That's my advice to any writer. Anybody who's looking at the franchise and going, okay, a lot of people go, they'll never replace Donald Pleasance. Here's a newsflash. Quit trying to necessarily replace Donald Pleasance or worrying about having your character be Sam Loomis. Have your character be them, who they are. Write your character what you want it to be. I'll give a great example. I created a character named Derek Thompson once. Derek was from Haddonfield. His parents weren't necessarily wealthy, but they were working class. Derek got straight A's. He was a good student. He became an investigative reporter. He went to college, obviously, to do this. And because his parents were private investigators, he became obsessed, not just with crime, but with the Myers case itself. Again, it's not hard to create new characters. You just have to be able to look at what you want to do with a character and create them. I'll tell you the three characters I created for one story that I loved doing. I loved writing. Felix and Lester were thieves. They were thieves. They did not know jack or nothing about the town of Haddonfield. All they knew is it had a bank, and they wanted to rob that bank. And they had someone who was working at a candy store across from the bank. Well, they figured he was owning the candy store. He didn't tell his two partners, Felix and Lester. If I said Alex, Felix and Lester, that someone else owned it. So when he finally tells them that he doesn't own it, they get mad at him, and one of them pulls a knife and says, "What kind of game are you playing?" And here it's this blind woman who runs the store. And that was one of my favorite things I got to. Now, Ghost of Haddonfield, which was just long. Um, yeah, I liked the story. It was fun. I liked Maxwell Dugan. He was a lot of fun to do. But that was a lot of there was a lot of things that inspired that. To me, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed writing it, but was going more off inspiration. There was look, many things inspired that. Number one, the ghost of Sarah Collins. Something she said that sort of struck me, and here's what she said: I was alive once. Here's a ghost acknowledging she's dead. She's telling this to a living person. And I thought that was so, the words were just so, I don't know how to explain it, but to me, when I heard those words, something clicked. And that's where I came up with a concept of, what if there's this kid, this 18-year-old? He's not from Hanfield either. He's from Chicago. But he wants to leave the city because of the violence. Not just because of the violence, but because death, and he has to interact with ghosts because he can see them, because his mother could see and talk to them. He figures there's got to be a town, so here's this small town of Haddonfield. And that's where he chooses. His father tells him every town has its ghost. His father's right. Every town does have its ghost. Every town. There's death everywhere, right? That's the inevitable of it. And, again, create new characters and put them in the Halloween franchise. Or when you're writing a Halloween story, create new characters. They don't have to be Sam Loomis. They don't have to be Laurie Strode. They don't have to be Sarah Moyer, Tina Williams, Rachel Carruthers, Jamie Lloyd. They don't have to be that. Have them be them. Be what you create them as. And you'll have your own character. It's that simple. It really is. Now, me personally, if you have more than one protagonist, make sure you kill the other one. Me personally, that's what I would do. See, I have a sinister, dark mind. My hope for a Halloween Ends is that they kill Michael, Laurie, and Allison, all three of them. All three of them die together. That's my hope. What better way? If you're really going to end it, end it. There's no consequence, right? I mean, come on. There's always the other timeline, right? But that's sort of the thing. You can't be afraid to kill characters either, even main ones. There's always a new character to create. Always. It's in your mind. All of it. Every character you'll ever create is in your mind. That's the thing. That's something I want more people who are going to write Halloween stories or stories in general to know, that the character you create, it does not have to mimic any one character that currently exists in the franchise. It doesn't. It really, really doesn't. I would say you know why I really liked Kills a lot with Andy Matichek's character? Because even though she was going out after Myers for revenge of the death of her father, she still was not Laurie Strode to me. She wasn't her grandmother. Because even her grandmother's too busy focused on thinking that Michael's going after her. Allison knows that's not the case. She's seeking him out. She's seeking him out. She's not, no. You know? Again, make sure you're making a new character separate from anything else that's ever been done. Anything. Any character. A clean slate is the best thing. It really is. Because once you start out with a character, you can take them wherever you want. And if you have an end game for that character, which you should, I would always advise that, have another character waiting in the wings. Have another character waiting. If you have plans to kill off two main, you have another right underneath. Or a side character who is sort of becoming the main character inadvertently. And sometimes that happens too in stories where you're writing a side character and they're not necessarily doing more, but they're as part of the story as your main characters. That happens. That happens to me. I'm trying to think what story. I don't think it was Halloween. What was it? Mr. Notorious. I had no intention on really the Marshals being a part of the biggest part of the story at all. That just happened. That's just something that happened as I was writing the story. I figured I'll just write these Marshals in and they'll just eventually go away. And they never really did until I killed one and then the other was still around. That's just something that happens. I'm serious. They were never to be main protagonists. They weren't. That's just something that does happen. You'll write a character and you'll think, I'll get rid of them. I'll get rid of them. They're nothing. And then you find yourself writing more and more dialogue for them. Like, wait a second. What did I just do here? Excuse me. But again, Ryan Bowers, sorry if I mispronounced him. The Halloween franchise, my friend, can live without Dr. Loomis. You just have to let it. And you have to create a character who isn't a clone of any existing character. Don't clone characters. Make your own. That's the best advice I can ever give. So I hope you guys have a great night and have a good one.